Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's LinkedIn Live. We are coming live today on Friday mornings instead of our usual Tuesday morning, but schedules being what they are, we are just really, really happy to have today's guest, Rick Welday, who is joining us from Dallas. A little bit about Rick, and then I'll bring him forward to join. Rick is a longtime AT&T veteran. He's currently Executive VP and General Manager, AT&T Business Enterprise Markets since April 22. But as I say, about 30 years, I think, at AT&T. So a lot of story and history there. Let me just bring you back to the front. Thanks, Rick, for joining us today.
My pleasure. Happy Friday, Karen. I think it almost feels too late to keep saying Happy New Year now. So I'll stay.
I know. I was like, I can go to the 15th, but maybe today would be the day. So
we'll do it together. We'll move on. Flip the page.
Happy New Year. It's great. Well, before we dive into this business transformation that you've been leading, we were just chatting before we went live about both being from Texas or living in Texas for substantial periods of time, which I think is terrific. But I have to ask you to tell briefly the story of the shirt hanging on the wall behind you, which now everyone will see whether they were or not.
Yeah, that multicolored shirt is for the awkward Barbie from the Barbie movie. And I'm not a Barbie movie expert. I've seen it, but I was asked to play the awkward Barbie with my friend who leads all of the consumer business, Jennifer Robertson. She played the other awkward Barbie. I guess there's a male awkward Barbie and a female awkward Barbie. So we did that for a costume party. So that's what the shirt is. It's just been hanging there since last year.
That's great. I watched Barbie on an airplane, so I don't remember awkward Barbie, but I'm going to have to go back and look for it.
There was
there should definitely be one.
Hair that was everywhere in the crayons. Jennifer played that, and then the guy. Obviously, I didn't play Ken, but I forget Alan maybe. I can't remember the gentleman's name, but it was the other Barbie. So there you go. More about Barbie than you thought you'd get in this broadcast.
And a glimpse into Rick. So when you're not playing awkward Barbie, you are doing another very important role, which is his executive VP and GM for the enterprise markets. So one of the things that I want to spend most of our time on today is just insights into your journey of leading this $35 billion business portfolio and some. I know you've been leading a transformation there. I'm curious about sort of the strategy, how you developed for making the changes that you need to make, and then maybe more specifically, what sort of measures you've taken.
Yeah, great. So I've been with AT&T now nearly 34 years. And back to the Texas, I've probably relocated 15 times in 3 countries. I provide that for the context of the answer that I'm about to give. It's been a really varied journey. And that has forced me into a discipline of when I get into a role, this one for sure. I always try to start with what's the market? What's the total appreciable market there? What am I going after? And what does it take to win in that market? What do customers want in that market? Mm-hmm. And so in this role, part of the transformation began with an intensive research, both qualitative and quantitative, to establish answers to those questions. And then once you get the market defined, and it's not as if we didn't have the market defined before I took this role, but it's a dynamic environment. And so when I take a new role, I want to make certain that we've got that right. That becomes the North Star on our compass, and that defines everything we do, the product roadmap, our distribution strategy, how we go to market, the talent that we need to do what we need to do. So in our space, it was nice because the intersection of what customers wanted in our space with what our shareholders want us to do to create value was largely centered around connectivity and the demand for connectivity. And given that we're the largest, fastest growing fiber business in the US, and that we have the largest national wireless business, and we've got ubiquitous reach around most of the globe for our multinational customers, it was a good starting point for us, Karen. And so then it turned into, okay, then what do we need to do to make sure that we're the broadband provider of choice, whether fixed or wireless? And then there are other adjacent services outside of that connectivity, but connectivity became core, making sure that we're the most secure, reliable in that environment. So understanding the market, getting commitment around that, and establishing a firm definition around what we're going to be and what success looks like.
Yeah. Well, how wonderful to have your investors and your customers aligned with what they want, so you
Sure.
don't have to,
There's
yeah,
really
you don't
not
have,
another good way to do that. I'm so glad you mentioned that. It's critical that that happens.
mm,
I don't know how you can do it another way. If those two aren't aligned, it's ultimately going to fail.
yeah.
So no, we're very pleased that there's strong alignment there.
So part of the research coming into this that I did said you've reduced the business product portfolio by like 75%. That's a pretty significant move in any business, never mind one this size. What was the rationale behind that, and what are some of the outcomes you achieved?
Yeah, great question. Once we did the research on what the market wanted, what the overlap was with where we created value, frankly, it became clear that we had over the years put a lot of products and solutions into the environment for us to market and sell to our customers that inherently aren't bad products or services,
Mhm.
but they not might not be core to who we are. And our goal is not to be a giant warehouse of go pick whatever you want, throw it in the cart. We require some focus for ourselves. So when we looked at
Mm,
some of those products, we had low share in that space for that solution. Maybe we had low or no margin in that space for that solution.
mm,
But we had just over time put it into the environment. And so the goal was let's focus in on at our core the connectivity of our products and solutions. Then what are some of the key adjacencies around those? And as we did that, that really started to streamline the portfolio.
mm,
It also allowed us to get into better, more strategic relationships with the partners that were part of that more focused go-to-market effort. And so I'll give you an example. Cisco, we ended up doing a lot more with
mhm,
Cisco, and we've publicly announced a mobile WebEx solution that I think is absolutely a direct result of some of that streamlining and focus. Is that instead of just being a distributor of some of their products, we started to innovate with them to solve
mhm,
problems. And as a result, when you were using AT&T Mobility in a mobile WebEx environment, that would be the best voice experience, high definition voice in their WebEx environment. And by the way, we'll do that with other providers of collaboration services. But it was let's really get great at the things that matter most. Let's not be everything to everybody all the time. Our customers know how to get those other solutions. Final comment: we do have an integrated solutions capability that if they want to go there, we've got
mhm.
some help to help them do that. But it was really important for us to say, this is our core, this is what we do. And the result of that has been an increased focus on connectivity, which has been great.
Yeah, well, sort of a back to basics, if you will. When you talk about your core, I think it's so interesting for large companies to make these kinds of moves because over time you get, I would think, I call it sort of scope creep, but it's probably product creep or something like that within your business where there are a lot of small decisions that made sense on their own,
Right.
maybe when they got approved, but then that you end up with something that I won't say is a distraction, but as you say, keeps you from focusing on the core. So it sounds like you've had really good success with that, but I'm imagining it wasn't a flip the switch answer. What kind of challenges did you encounter during the process?
Multiple. You have sellers that are wanting to continue to sell certain products that they've gotten really good at, they talk about a lot. They've made that a high portion of how they get compensated. So some of the change was making sure that we sit down with those sellers and say, you've been great at this, but we really need you to focus in on these things. And by the way, here's the data that reinforces why.
Mm,
I think it's really important to help people understand why you're making the change. It's not just a decision that just flew in on a bird, but here's the why we're making the change. And it's for the betterment of this business, which ultimately is in your benefit for us to make this change. And we need you to help us make this change. And here's how it's going to benefit you over time. It's going to be a better environment, stable. We're going to be more
mm,
valuable for our customers. But there's obviously when you go through change of what you are putting in the market, the people that are responsible for those products, selling those products, managing those products, there's a little bit of a wait a second, what are you doing there? In
mm,
some cases, customers even will say, well, wait a second, I'm used to getting everything from you on that truck. Help me understand how you guys want to do this. I will tell you that's been wonderful. We've got many customer advisory councils. And as I personally would meet with them and we would meet with them, we would walk through that. And unanimously, the feedback that we got from those big CIOs and CEOs was Got it. And oh, by the way, grateful that you're telling us this and that you're doing this because we think that's better business for you, which makes you a better partner for us. And so it was a process for sure, Karen.
Yeah, you need strong partners. It's also hard to it's hard to get commitment to the change if people don't understand the why
Yep.
and the what's in it for them. So kudos for paying attention to that for sure. I want to talk a little bit about your background. So your background's in marketing and advertising specifically, I think, and certainly broader than that, but that seemed to be a theme that ran through as I did a little research. How did your background influence how you approached this specific transformation and your leadership of this effort?
Yeah, great question. Specific to that, the marketing or advertising backgrounds, my conviction to start every role with the customer and market in has been seriously informed over the course of my career by the roles that I've had, whether chief marketing officer or other roles in that space.
Mhm.
If you're in those spaces long enough, you learn how important it is to stay very tied to the market and to the customer. So for sure, that's helped inform me and who I've been. I would also say I've been grateful for roles in my career that have worked with call centers and technicians and
Mhm.
international businesses and domestic businesses. And that has helped with what we just discussed. I've been through personal change my whole career. The original company I joined was Southwestern Bell, which morphed into SBC, which morphed into AT&T. So when I talk with people on my team about change, I can relate to them wanting to understand, okay, well, do we know what we're doing? Yeah, let me show you. And are we confident that this is the right step forward? I believe it is. But I also love the conversation of, you know what, you share with me if you think there are areas of discomfort. Having the confidence to open up the conversation with people has also been born out of just all the various roles that I've been grateful to have. Having a respect for each of those pieces of the business so that you understand sales and the care and the technicians, the operations of the business, the product teams, the marketing teams. I love helping them come together to win. So that's probably helped me significantly, having walked in a lot of shoes over the course of my career. Marketing for sure has been a wonderful set of experiences for me.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, the discomfort is there. You can either know about it or not. So opening yourself up to know about it, I think is directionally correct. You mentioned winning. I hear you're passionate about developing a quote winning culture. I'm curious, what does that mean to you, and how do you inspire and motivate your team to embrace big change like this?
Yeah, probably my early days of my career when you had maybe two mobile carriers in each market, there was such a palpable sense. I mean, this has taken me back, the 90s and the
Mm.
aughts, where you'd get up every day and you were scrapping it out for earning those growing customers to choose you as their mobile provider. And that team spirit and desire to win that customer's choice, that they chose you versus the other carrier, right? That it was such a binary decision for a formative part of my career that it really was visceral and fun for me and the team
Mhm.
to win. And I've noticed over the course of my career, we all want to win. I mean, even this last weekend with the national championship college football game, you've got millions of people tuning in to watch a bunch of college kids play football. And the amount of money and energy around that is because, again, people like to watch people win. They want to win. And so for me, it's really been important to define what winning looks like because I've never led a team that didn't want to win. And when you defined what winning was, and you help them watch the progress and you help them win, the positive energy that creates and the focus that creates is just incredible. I want to be on a team that wants to win. We do talk about winning a lot. And by the way, back to the earlier comment, winning will always be defined in my worlds by 3 to 5 metrics. Not that we don't look at dozens of other metrics, but
Mm.
we back to scope creep. We're really confident around it. May be revenue, it may be customer service experience that you're leading, depending on where your role is. Figure out what are the 3 to 5 metrics that get you promoted or fired in that role. And I'm always in every role quick to identify what are those metrics in this space. I align with my boss on that. And then I go get everybody that is on my team to put those on all of their appraisals. And it's what we talk about all the time. And so we've defined winning. And it's, we need to do this. We need to grow share. We need to grow revenue. We need to grow profit, whatever, it can be different things. But I have found people get energized positively when you talk about winning.
Yeah, I love this. 3 to 5 things that get you promoted or fired. I mean, how simple is that?
I'm shocked how many people don't align with bosses. My kids are in their mid to late 20s now, and I've taught them that. And they're in great jobs with big, well-known companies, and it's never failed them. Just never let there be ambiguity with how winning is defined by your boss or your company, your employer. And then if you have the privilege of leading a team, never let there be ambiguity with the people that you lead as to how we're going to define winning. I think that that's important.
Yeah. Gold, pure gold right there for those of you who are listening and watching. Rick, what's an interview if we don't talk about AI in this day and age? So, in sort of big picture, what's the impact and integration of generative AI within your business model? And maybe you could also speak to the telecommunications industry at large.
For sure. AI has been part of the telecom industry for many years now. Obviously, it's having a moment here, and I don't think we're coming back from the moment. I think it's a moment that we'll look back on and see that this was the start of something new. Your question, I think, speaks to that, because most of what we've been doing up to this point has been predictive AI. By the way, predictive AI continues to be enhanced. If you look at the telecom industry, your question on that, I'm very grateful. Within my business, we have all of our business accounts, nearly all the Fortune 1000. We have a huge number of the government accounts, but a lot of the national security and military accounts are in my team. And we use a lot of predictive AI to help protect networks and to watch for bad actors and bad traffic in the network. And obviously, a company the size of AT&T, a significant portion of global traffic traverses our networks. And so AI plays a very important role in protecting all of us. That same technology protects our commercial businesses, our financial partners, and our healthcare partners, et cetera. From a generative AI perspective, that's been exciting to watch how that is growing. We're very heavy in the co-pilot phase, I would say, right now, where we've got care agents that are clearly getting benefit from generative AI by asking questions that give them simple, quick answers for troubleshooting with customers, or maybe the right solution for a customer. Internally, we're getting better at having generative AI help answer simple questions about HR, your benefits, or your compensation, and things that used to take a little bit more effort. It's amazing now to watch, even within our own workforce, how that's happening. It's affecting coding, software engineering. We are using AI to upgrade legacy code. And if you think about how much technical transformation is occurring in our businesses and in the telecom industry, when you can use generative AI to help speed up the process of upgrading the code, you're transforming your business and the industry. So I would tell you, Karen, I think we're just getting started on this next phase, and it's exciting.
Yeah, it's exciting, and I think as with most new exciting things, it's also a little scary because we don't know what we don't know yet. And so trying to find that line between let's do the exciting thing, but let's make sure we stay directionally correct.
I agree with that. By the way, to that comment, we're very, very, very keen on that. And a lot of what we do, not dissimilar to others, is we will be very mindful of the environments where the large language models are and where we're pulling data from, and what has access to that environment. And you can imagine the scope of things that I just mentioned. There are some environments where there's zero access, there's zero external exposure, but we're using generative AI in a very contained, protected environment. There are other areas where, obviously you look at some of the more famous ones that are out there today. I won't do brand announcements for things, but we all know who's announced some of their public products. They're more public internet type products. I think you're going to find most companies like ours are doing a lot of things that are also in a more contained environment. And I think it goes to your point. We do want to be careful as we go through this transformation to do it in a smart way, for sure.
Yeah, great. I want to ask one more question about connectivity and then move and talk a little bit about your leadership journey. So there's been a lot of announcements, right? I think most people are familiar with the rollout of 5G and fiber. So from a connectivity standpoint, how have you sort of embraced and navigated this shift? You mentioned earlier, connectivity is like the thing you're focused on. Say more about what it is you're focused on.
Yeah, you bet. So if you think of the telecom industry and particularly this business environment, and some of your viewers will relate to this clearly, and I know your background, you will. But if you think about very connected architecture for decades, where you had products like that are called MPLS or VPNs, but you had services that were architected to be direct connections and completely contained in that environment. That has moved to the cloud, right? So we've all heard about the cloud in recent years, but as everything's moved to the cloud, well, now that cloud needs to be connected. And those clouds may be provided by Amazon, Microsoft, any number of different providers. So to answer the question around connectivity evolving, I almost have to start with the biggest single technical transformation we're seeing right now is moving from those older technologies to the cloud. And when people move to the cloud, it only benefits them if they're connected to it. And they're only going to be connected to it either with a fixed or mobile broadband connection. And so the demand for connectivity continues to increase. And it's largely because of that dynamic. Along with the demand for connectivity is the demand for speed, low latency, capacity, because how we're using those services and the data that puts onto those networks is just up and to the right, skyrocketing. And so for us as a business, we're constantly trying to keep up with where connectivity is going, what people need from it. My last role was in the consumer space, and we obviously are very glad to be the largest, fastest growing fiber business, and we continue to invest heavily in this space because we think it's so important. On the consumer side, we looked at that period of time and said, okay, let's start raising speeds. We launched 5 gig residential service. Customers' data caps are a problem in this environment. Let's eliminate data caps. Contracts are creating friction with the customer. Let's eliminate contracts in that environment. Introductory pricing, where you pay a discount for a year and then it jumps up significantly in the 13th month and goes on. That's been the pricing model for connectivity and residential connectivity for years. We got rid of that. We did a lot, Karen, to focus on how do we transform the home residential fiber experience for customers. And I'm very, very proud of that work. And the team that's doing that today is taking that to whole new levels. We're doing the same thing in business. I will tell you what I think you're going to see it characterized a lot going forward is we'll continue to expand the fiber footprint. We'll build a lot more fiber capacity for our customers, but you're going to continue to see a focus on making sure that that is very secure and very reliable. And back to the AI discussion, we are confident that there are things that we can and should be doing and are that we'll talk more about at the proper time to make sure that businesses understand not only can you get the speed, the low latency, et cetera, but you can get the type of security that you want as you go forward. So that's that. 5G is just another example of it, frankly, low latency, high capacity. So whether it's mobile or fixed, honestly, don't think customers are overly focused on that. I think they're just focused on being connected. And
you want the solution. Yeah.
We'll help. Yeah, it's right, Karen. We'll help you stay connected. Let us help you with the right solution for you. But we understand you need speed, security, reliability.
Yeah, terrific. So Rick, we're almost at time here. My final question for you, you just said up and to the right, which made me smile because that's the tagline for my business, up and to the right. Thank you for bringing that up. And as we think back on your leadership career, was there a moment or an event when you knew that you were moving up and to the right, that spot on the 2x2 matrix where we always want to be, when you knew that you were moving in a way that you would be successful?
Yeah, such a great question. I think about that, and as I reflect, I think that the moments of adversity probably were the ones that taught me how I was moving up into the right. I had a role many years ago leading a wireless business in Switzerland, and the long story short is that the person that I replaced, the business that I took over, was not as solid as what I had been told before I moved my family there. And the banks cut us off. We went through massive transition. I was in my early 30s and arguably had never had an experience like that. So the intensity of that was palpable. And when I think back on that, and I came out of that, thankfully, I was there long enough to get focused on what do we need to do to get this to a better place. And a lot of what we've discussed today helped drive that. Well, okay, what's success look like? How do we do that? Let's get the team on board, because you can imagine they were feeling stung. And so how do we know that this new guy, Rick, is going to get us to a better place? Right. And so that taught me a lot. And that resulted in our CEO, previous CEO, Randall Stevenson, I remember made a comment to me one time. He said, you're ending up in these roles that are hard because I have confidence that you're going to go in there and transform it. And his comment was, you can have caretakers and transformers. And he said, and you've crossed into the transformer space. So for me, up into the right was somebody, frankly, sharing with me what I didn't have articulated in my own head. I just knew that I had been in a series of tough jobs. And I realized that it was by design with my leadership. And it was in the context of, that's you going up into the right. We need you to make contributions, and your contributions are frankly going to probably come when you deal with a lot of adversity. And if it were easy, caretakers might do it, but it's hard. So please be a transformer. So for me, it was when I was labeled a transformer, it felt encouraging to me. But that was probably enlightening for me.
Yeah. What a gift from Randall Stevenson. I hope you see yourself that way. Terrific. All right. Well, we're at time. Thank you so much, Rick, for joining us today and for sharing sort of this behind the scenes, what's happening at AT&T with the transformation. Congratulations on all your success, and best to you and your team.
Thank you, Karen. It's been a joy. Great to be with you.
Thank you.